welcome to the stage, Matt Mills, president from SailPoint.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you all for being here. We are truly living in extraordinary times. Through the most rapid period of technological growth in human history, exponentially accelerating change that's reshaping our world in real time, right before our eyes. And while we are here this week to discuss cyber and identity security, I did want to give you a few examples that will provide context for exactly how broad-based and extraordinary this moment is. So Waymo, probably most of you know Waymo, right? It's a driverless taxi service. Provides more than 250,000 paid trips each week in Phoenix, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and now here in Austin. And this week, if you've been out, you no doubt have seen Waymos in the city. Take a ride and see for yourself how amazing this new technology really is. What's remarkable here, they do 250,000 rides each week. It represents a 25-fold increase in weekly ridership in less than 2 years. So what you're really seeing here is you're witnessing the birth of an entirely new transportation infrastructure in real time. And what's really amazing, there are hundreds of other companies just like Waymo using AI as the catalyst for new innovations that are changing our world. So here's a few. Starlink. Most of us have heard of Starlink, but what's really happening? Musk is actually creating the construction of a new global internet infrastructure in the sky. There's a company called Figure. This is a robotics startup building and scaling humanoid robots for commercial and household tasks. Today, they're already valued at about $39 billion. And in their world, we will all soon have robots in our office and our homes alike. And then there's another little company called Iambic Therapeutics, healthcare company, actually backed by our friends at NVIDIA. And did you know today, it costs nearly $2 billion in 10 to 15 years to get a new product, right, new drug, through the FDA and available to the general public. Iambic's AI-driven drug discovery dramatically reduces the cost and time to develop and deliver new drugs, drastically speeding up new therapies to patients. And this is all occurring across virtually every market and every industry. We're seeing a similar impact in cybersecurity, from artificial intelligence, the growing AI infrastructure, all accelerating the pace of innovation dramatically. And just think what we have seen over the last 12 months alone with agentic AI, the ever-changing threat landscape that is also being enabled by this amazing technology, and the rapid workforce explosion being driven by non-human identities. So today, they tell us there's about 8.2 billion people in the world, and 4 billion of them are working. Over the next few years, there will be an explosion of digital and non-human workers. How many? I don't know. There's a ton of different opinions. Pick your multiple, 2 times, 4 times, 6 times, or maybe an extreme like 2,000 agents per human employee that Jensen Huang suggests at NVIDIA. The 4 billion workers will explode to 15 to 20 billion workers conservatively on an infrastructure today that can barely support the human workforce. Transformation is happening right before our eyes. If you're going to manage, secure, and utilize all the power of these new technologies, identity becomes the most critical piece of the puzzle. And when it comes to managing and securing agents, it's not as simple as flipping a light switch. You must have your house in order: policies, roles, entitlements, certifications. Without this basic foundation, AI agents will create more problems than benefits for you and your company. In short, you must have the right foundation, the right platform, and ultimately, the right partners alongside of you. Now, let me share some fun numbers with you that would indicate to us as an industry we still got a lot of work to do. 60% of organizations suffered an identity-related security incident last year. Over 80% of the data breaches involves compromised credentials. So nobody's kicking the front door in anymore. In fact, the bad guy's probably sitting right next to you. Password attacks are happening every 39 seconds, and identity-related incidents are now costing companies about $5 million per breach. Oh, And for those of us that live here in the good old United States, we get the Super Bowl trophy for now being the ransom capital of the world. Our recent agentic survey shows 80% of companies actually using agents today. Using agents today. All right? Pretty surprising. You know what's not surprising? Is that less than 40% of them are governed. Right? So now you've got, imagine, you have agents running around these companies, ungoverned, accessing whatever they want to access. It's a big problem. Last month, I spoke with a CISO at a Fortune 500 company. She told me she discovered 47 AI agents running in production nobody knew about. They had DevOps, had automation agents, finance. If you can imagine this, Brian, finance had AI agents actually doing reconciliation, right? And when I asked who's responsible for these, she said, we don't know. So for the record, I assured her that's not all that uncommon, right? Unfortunately, this is actually our new reality, and it's exactly why we're announcing breakthrough innovations that solve this AI security challenge. And let's take a minute and look at the market landscape. In each of the past 4 years, we partnered with McKinsey and published a Horizons of Identity report. The latest report shows that 63% of all organizations globally remain in the early horizons 1 or 2 stages, right? What does this mean? It means their identity programs are really, really early. They're very manual, they're tactical, they're not embracing automation, they don't use AI. In short, their houses aren't in order. Just 6 years ago, when we coined the term identity security, we ran a Google search to check out the term. And all we got back was a company called LifeLock. That was 6 years ago. If you ran the same search today, you would get back over 200 companies claiming identity security is their primary source of business. Right? Our market, the problems we are solving, they can be very confusing. And it's exacerbated in today's fast pace of change. So today I will tell you with confidence, identity security as we knew it is dead. This new world is dynamic. It's driven by an explosion of human and non-human identities, and it demands context. Context with risk and context with data. Today's reality demands a new force that relies on unifying identity, security, and data. So think about this. Traditional identity security systems would say, there's John, I know John, John has access, and let him in. But these modern systems, they need to be smart enough to say, that is John, and John has access. But John's on a new device we've never seen. John's at a place it's 3 a.m., and John's in another country, right? We need to pause, and John doesn't need to be getting access, right? This happens with the trifecta of identity, data, and security. And this is the new control plane for the modern enterprise. Every access decision is driven by who the identity is, the context of the data they touch, and the security signals surrounding them. And by unifying these 3 forces, we can enable real-time decisions that reduce risk without negatively impacting your business. Now, you just heard from Mark. To solve today's security challenges, we got to do something different. We need a new approach. We need an adaptive identity where access to critical mission information can be granted, monitored, and managed dynamically based on policy and context. This is adaptive identity. And SailPoint is at the forefront of this new dimension. Our approach governs access at an enterprise scale. It knows who or what is requesting access, when and where they are, why they need it, and what risks they pose. Our company has spent 2 decades building the breadth of identity and depth of context that makes this all happen. And the result? The result is a real-time, risk-aware authorization across every identity and system that makes zero trust and zero standing privilege possible. So I want to take a couple minutes here and look at the upcoming innovations you're going to hear a lot about here from Chandra and our team momentarily, and then the rest of the week. So building on our strong, solid IGA foundation, I do think it's important to note, I get asked this, governance is not going away. Governance is just going to manifest itself differently, right? Governance is dynamic. Governance will be real time. Authorization will be real time. And so we're expanding our product portfolio to meet these new demands. AI agents are already tapping into all of your most sensitive data. Customer records, financial information, intellectual property, and they're moving at machine speed, and they're touching more data than any human ever would or could. And don't be surprised if your chief data officer is asking, how in the world can I protect all this data when non-human identities I can't see, running 24/7, processing thousands of records a second? Legitimate question. And that's why governing AI agents isn't optional. You need the same data protection controls you have for your human users, but rebuilt for AI scale. We are first to market with our agentic security and governance solution. We are enabling the governance of the non-human identities through agent identity security and machine identity security solutions. And we're integrating threat management and intelligence into our platform. CISOs can now leverage our observability and insight capabilities powered by our identity graph to give them a holistic view of all identities and their access patterns to help them make better decisions. And all of this is built on one unified foundation. We are introducing a number of new innovations to Atlas this year, new advanced capabilities that we will call Atlas Enterprise. Our advanced capabilities bring the identity and threat context together. It gives the SOC the ability to have the right automated response for any and all types of threat signals. And these capabilities represent something that's really, really good. True integration between identity and security operations. And this is just the beginning. Our vision extends far beyond what we're announcing today. This is just the first chapter. And you're going to see more and more of this coming in the coming weeks, in the months, so stay tuned. So next, I want to take a moment. I'm going to ask Shane Harms to join me on stage. By introduction, Shane runs enterprise security in Zero Trust at NVIDIA. Okay? NVIDIA is a customer of ours, but not just a customer. They're also a design partner. They work closely with us to shape the next generation of identity innovations. And as we talk about how AI is transforming virtually every industry, and also the impact AI is having on our own industry, and identity and security, it's great to have Shane with us today, because when you think of NVIDIA, they're at the epicenter of all of this, right? So please welcome Shane Harms.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, first of all, thank you for being here and being with us. As I said earlier, we are so appreciative of the relationship, the partnership, and we got a ton of things here that we talk about, and so I'm just going to start with the first question. All right. So NVIDIA is really powering this whole AI revolution, as I said earlier, that's transforming every industry. And for your unique vantage point, as the infrastructure enabling this transformation, how are you driving an organization to not just adopt AI, but to adopt it securely? And then what role do you see NVIDIA playing in setting the standards for all AI security practices?
Thanks. NVIDIA is massively investing in AI, as we all know. What we're seeing with those investments, with the proliferation of AI agents, is we're getting a preview into what the future is going to look like very quickly, by the way. I don't say that we're solving the problems. What we have is early insight into the challenges. And that's what I think my opportunity is. I think for solving this, it's everybody into this room. It's the standards boards, which have a lot of work they need to do. It's the industry as a whole that's going to figure out how to solve this. As far as the challenges that we're seeing right now, there's three things that everyone in this room should be thinking about. The scale and velocity of AI operations is far exceeding human capabilities today. We have AI systems today that are driving thousands of identity decisions, and that's going to grow exponentially in the very near future. So we have to have identity systems that can scale to meet this type of demand. The second, the contextual complexity of what we're seeing with these AI systems is so much greater than anything we've seen before. These AI agents, they're not just accessing data, what we see with traditional machine accounts. These AI agents are creating data, they're transforming data, they're redistributing data to places that our existing security controls were never built to anticipate. And the last thing I would call out is the autonomous nature of these AI agents. They're constantly learning and adapting. What everyone in this room is going to have to figure out, and what's the real challenge is going to be, is that we're not going to be able to sit back and wait for security capabilities to come and bolt them on top of our existing security frameworks. We're going to need to rethink these security frameworks from the ground up. We need to have capabilities that can solve challenges like least privilege for systems that have the ability to learn and adapt.
Yeah. So let's, I think our next question kind of continues on with this train of thought here, Shane, but let's talk a little bit about, I know it keeps a lot of these security leaders up at night, but AI agents and machine identities. You and I had the opportunity to talk a little bit about this the other day, but these aren't just traditional applications of users, as you were saying. They're autonomous entities that can spawn other processes, make decisions, interact with other systems in ways we've never seen before. And would love for the audience to hear a little bit about your experience and how these AI agents behave differently from traditional identities, and what new security paradigms, in your mind, do we need?
Yeah. I'll say the good news. Let me just say, AI agents are emergent. They're fundamentally unique from any identity we've seen before. The good news is, even 6 months ago, I was in so many conversations where it's just another version of a machine identity. And that is a massive disservice to the complexity and the challenges that we're going to face with AI agents. If you think about a machine identity, its behavior is very predictable. It's based on the programming that it had. AI agents are designed from the ground up to constantly learn and adapt and change that behavior. The existing security controls that we have, security infrastructure that we have in place, it's not going to be able to handle this type of behavioral change. Things like threat intelligence, EUBA capabilities are simply not going to work for AI agents. If you think about EUBA builds behavioral baselines based on historical behavioral patterns. How's that going to work with an AI agent that every single day is continuing to evolve its behavior? So those models are simply not going to work. As an industry, we're going to need AI native security applications that have the ability to differentiate between anomalous behavior and legitimate AI learning behavior. And the only way it's going to be able to do this is to understand intent and context of what the AI agent is doing, not just look at the action of what it's doing.
Yeah, interesting. So, Shane, part of your responsibility is also zero trust, right? And it's certainly been the gold standard for cybersecurity strategy for many years. And while many aspire to get there, I think very few actually do. And just based on everything you just said, with the acceleration of this digital workforce and agentic AI, how does this manifest itself in our efforts to really embrace a zero trust ideology?
Yeah, if I could borrow a phrase from Navigate, we're going to need to rethink zero trust completely. Look, zero trust today is built on the concept that we're going to validate who you are. We're going to authenticate you every time you go to do something, and then we're going to give you access to what you need to do your job. In an AI world where AI agents have the ability to change what they need to access on a daily basis, it's not going to work. This idea that we're going to be able to authenticate you, continuously authenticate you, simply not going to work. Zero trust for AI needs to shift towards behavioral zero trust. So when I say that, what I mean is when an AI agent goes and accesses data, it's no longer good enough to just ask, are you who you say you are? We need to start asking, is the data you're accessing aligned with the role that we've given you? Is the data that you're accessing aligned with the historical behaviors you're seeing? But most importantly, we need to ask, is the data that you're accessing aligned with with your goals right now? That's what I meant when I said intent and context, and that's how we're going to solve that.
Yeah, so the idea of human ownership might be for some, but certainly not all.
For the AI agents.
Yeah.
I was at the executive advisory board, and we were talking about this yesterday, and we kept saying ownership.
Yeah.
To me, ownership is simply a lifecycle management problem for AI agents. It's not about ownership. AI agents are built to serve a purpose, and those AI agents are going to be used by your entire workforce, by your customers. So where we need to shift that is understanding what permissions and access that the person using it has, and how do we inherit those within the AI agent and build security controls around that.
All right. So when we prepped, we said if we had about a minute left, I would ask you, what about quantum?
I haven't got AI figured out yet.
All right.
Look, we are starting to invest in quantum. I think we understand where it's going to impact us first, but when that is and to what extent, I don't know. From a pure identity perspective, what I would say is it's going to impact cryptography. And we're going to see this in a few different ways. If your SOC is decrypting your traffic at your edge, when you have quantum cryptography, it's no longer going to be feasible. That's going to shift a lot of your security controls to your endpoints. Things like enterprise managed browsers, VDI are going to be critical if you want to support a BYOD strategy. From an identity perspective, public key infrastructure underpins most of our security frameworks. They will not stand up to a quantum attack. So we're going to have a quantum-resistant identity solution pretty soon. I would say if there's one thing I could leave you with, the companies that are going to be successful in this world are the ones that view identity not as a compliance requirement, but as a competitive advantage to let them securely adopt new technologies.
Yeah, I think we would agree with you. All right, Shane, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Pretty scary, actually. But look, I'm going to wrap my piece up here momentarily. Look, we've shared quite a bit, kind of sipping from a fire hose here this morning. You've heard some of the breakthrough technologies. You just heard from a guy that's on the cutting edge of one of the most cutting edge companies in the AI world. And I'll leave you with this. So I was thinking about how we wrap this up, and somehow I stumbled across a program. Do you guys ever see a program called What Would You Do? Right? I don't know that it was that good because it's not on anymore, right? But the idea, if you hadn't, was they put people in real life challenging situations and they catch them on camera, right, responding. And some respond right, most respond wrong, right? But it just kind of brought me to where we're at today, right? And so when you leave here today and this week with all the data we're sharing, all the innovation we're sharing, the question kind of becomes your version of what will you do, right? What will you do differently when you walk out of here today? What will you ask of your partners? Will you ask for vertically integrated solutions? Will you ask for platforms and solutions that are rooted deeply in AI? Will your company take advantage of this amazing technology to move more efficiently and more productive and more securely? Will you position identity as the business enabler that it actually is? Or will you keep selling it as just another security control? Look, I think change is happening now. And as much as we all would love to find that pause button, it doesn't exist. Doing nothing today is paramount to being left behind. And the organizations that are dominating the next decade, they're not waiting. for a strategy session. They're not building, they're being built right now by leaders who see the autonomous identity intelligence and ask one question: how quickly can we make this our reality? So I'll leave you with this. The cameras are rolling. The tech gap continues to widen, and your competitors are watching, and this is your moment. Choose which side of this identity divide you'll be on. And so, what will you do? Thank you all for listening.